Hi everybody, and welcome back to Los Genre Pro Revenge, where OP will make sure her sister's ex doesn't forget her name. Our first post is from user Angel Guide Indie. When I was 14 and my older sister Sarah was 22, we found out she was pregnant with Paul, her boyfriend of 4 years. They immediately got engaged and they were really happy, for a time. Sarah had a horrible pregnancy. About 16-18 weeks in, the wonder of creating a human life evaporated within her. She developed hyperemesis, really bad morning sickness. She was constantly in pain, she developed gestational diabetes, and just all around hated the experience. Around this time, Paul, the then fiance, started getting sick of the complaining. I believe the argument was, "Your body is built to do this, it can't be that bad." She was due around Valentine's Day, and Paul's parents were very excited, both about the grandkid and the fact he could be born on a holiday. Sarah was very against that and really hoped that her son wouldn't be born on a holiday, even one as small as Valentine's Day. Well, Paul's mom says something like, "Well, if you name him Valentine or Valentino, then that'll make the day even more special to him." Again, Sarah hated the idea. She thought it was tacky, he'd be bullied for it, and just really didn't like the name Valentino. Paul loved it, but agreed to go with a more average name like Daniel or Jared. Fast forward to February, and she was ready to deliver. Before this, Sarah had officially been put on bed rest because while standing or walking, her blood pressure took unexpected spikes and dips. She was doing her best to avoid giving birth on Valentine's Day. But births happen when they happen, and that baby was going to come on Valentine's Day whether she wanted him to or not. Paul couldn't stand to be in the delivery room because it was gross, and my dad took my youngest brothers home, so my older brother and I stayed in the waiting room with Paul. 16 hours after Sarah went into labor, my little nephew was officially part of the family on the evening of Valentine's Day. Unfortunately, Sarah was not okay. She had to have an emergency C-section, and during the operation, they discovered that the back of her uterus had a very large and severe tumor, non-cancer. It accounted for her severe back pain and blood pressure issues. The doctors immediately went in for more surgery to remove the tumor, but sadly ended up having to perform a full hysterectomy. This meant that my nephew would be Sarah's only child. Now, while Sarah was in for surgery, Paul was taking care of everything baby related to make sure his son was okay. My older brother wanted to be a good future brother-in-law and make sure that Paul was okay because of my sister's surgery. He found Paul filling out the baby paperwork on his own, looking like he had not a single worry in his mind. He asked why Paul didn't wait for Sarah to fill out the paperwork, as she should be out of surgery within the hour, and Paul said that he just wanted her to get her rest and heal. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. No, he wouldn't. He knows how much she hates that name, and still, she'd need to sign the paperwork too. Well, I regret to inform you that Paul forged Sarah's signature on the paperwork and waited until she was out of surgery to hand it over. My sweet nephew was named Valentino on his first official birth certificate. He was never brought up on forgery charges because his parents were witnesses to her signing the papers, even though they only got there at the last minute. So Sarah dumped him and got her son's name changed a month later. She was willing to do split custody with him because that's her son's father and she wants the kid to know him. But Paul vanished and she never heard anything back. Until a mutual friend on Facebook was tagged on Paul's wedding pictures 6 months later. Paul had apparently started cheating on her not long after she got pregnant. Sarah was livid, but there wasn't much she could do, so she filed for child support and continued to live her best life. Fast forward 6 years later, this is where the revenge starts. So Sarah has been a single mother for the past 6 years and has been amazing at it. At this point, I've been a hairdresser for about 8 months at our local Great Clips. I'm working one day, and who is seated before me but Paul's wife in the flesh? I take her back for a trim, and she clearly has no idea who I am. Side note, Paul hasn't told anything to his wife. She has no idea about Sarah, that she was the other woman, or that Paul actually has a kid that he's been, infrequently, paying child support for. She's in the dark on it all. I told myself not to be a jerk and treat her like a normal customer, which I did. Now at this point, Paul's wife was heavily pregnant, so a lot of our conversation was about that. She loved being pregnant, but it was hard. Her husband was so unsympathetic, big shocker, and she was due in 10 weeks and they still hadn't picked out a name for the baby girl. This was my chance. I asked what kind of name she was looking for and she said, "I want something unique and unusual, but not ridiculous." You know the ones I'm talking about. Paul has suggested many, but she didn't like any of them. So I, the conniving little weasel that I am, said, "What about Sarah?" Another side note, my sister's name isn't actually Sarah. She was named after an older family member that passed not long after she was born, but there was no female equivalent for his name, so our parents created one. It's a beautiful name, and just what Paul's wife was looking for. She loved it. She stuck by it. And I found out by stalking her Facebook months later that she had put her foot down about it, and that was their daughter's name. Now Paul has a daughter with his ex's name to remind him every day about her, and to also remind him to pay child support. Little nephew is now 10 years old with a new name and no contact with his biological father, though we do sometimes call him Val as a family nickname. He likes it but doesn't want to bring it to school, so it's staying a family nickname. Sarah pretends to hate when we call him that in a joking way. As long as he likes it, she doesn't have a problem with it, and she's seeing a new guy who's really great and like a father to Val. And there you have it, Karma working through the years, handing OP the perfect opportunity to stick it to his sister's ex. Ah, delicious. That's what you get for being a scumbucket. Alright, let's move on to the next post. This one is from user SaltyBalls2020. What's better than calling the cops on your sweet little old neighbor's heroin addict grandson for stealing your Amazon package? In July, my elderly neighbor had her grandson and pregnant girlfriend move in to help them out. She is a widowed lady in her 70s, babbles a lot, but sweet. I have a soft spot for her. Years ago, she cornered me as I was leaving to take my dog on a walk. My dog was unhappily pacing for the walk while we listened to her stories. He peed on her during the story. She is so senile, she didn't notice. Just a few days later, I'm mowing my backyard and the grandson walks past my house carrying an Amazon envelope. Weird. An hour later, sweet little old lady comes over with the envelope her grandson had. "This was in my landscaping." Totally forgot I ordered my kids the movie Leap. What a bad haul for this kid. See, I'm a criminal defense attorney, probably the only one this lady knows. If I call the cops, my neighbor will try to hire me. It will get weird. She is so sweet. I'll be a witness. He is on probation, so he will sit in jail for a while. This will totally make me look like a snitch to my own clients in that same jail where there are thieves, addicts, and burglars. It's bad personally and professionally, and it's not the biggest deal. So, I filled up an Amazon box with Purple Rain powder that was ordered to my office. A dry dye that gets darker and spreads when it comes into contact with your sweat. That lasts a week on your skin. Think leaking pen 50 times. Why? I want to shame him, and it won't come back on me. He's not gonna call the cops for stealing my stuff. He isn't gonna tell his grandma he stole from me. And if it makes a mess in her house, it's still cheaper for her than hiring a lawyer and paying her grandson's court costs and fines. Yep. Package was gone in 20 minutes. I walk past the home, screams of anger at the pregnant girlfriend. "This stuff won't come off! It's all over my grandma's house!" Priceless. The following day, I gave him the head nod as he smokes a cigarette in a hoodie. In July, he runs inside. Then I taught my kids to yell "Smurf" when he walks past. No snitching, just shame. Epic. That really teaches porch pirates to keep their hands to themselves and leave your packages alone. And now let's move on to the next post. This one is from user Deadlock1989. Bit of backstory. Jack and Jill had been going out for nearly 5 years by the point of this story. A year prior, Jill lost her job due to the company she worked for being liquidated. Money got tight for Jill, so Jack offered to help by covering her car payments, monthly installment, road tax, insurance, and fuel, so she could put the money she got to rent and utilities until she got a new job and was financially stable. Jack had a fairly decent job, so it wasn't a strain on his income. A year goes by and Jill is still unemployed, but not through rejections. She got lazy and just spent all day doing nothing around her house while Jack was at work. One day, Jack gets off work early and decides to surprise Jill on the way back home. But as he is approaching her house, he sees another car in her driveway. He parks on the street and sneaks up to the house and looks through the window to see Jill with another man. Jack was furious, but he didn't burst in there. He walked away, got in his car, and drove off. When Jack got home, he did a little digging and found out who the guy was through Facebook, and found she had been having an affair for half a year with this guy. He was now really mad and wanted revenge, and he knew the best way to do it. This is where the revenge comes in. Jill loved her car, even though she barely used it. So what Jack did was stop all the payments that were going out of his bank account and put them onto her account. As the car was in her name, it was easy to do. As the payments had only just gone out, he had to wait for the end of the month for his revenge to unfold. The end of the month comes in, and Jill's bank card is declined at the shops. She calls the bank up to find out what is going on, and they tell her she has gone overdrawn because of the car payments going out of her account. Jill phoned Jack and asked why the payment is coming out of her account and not his. Jack coldly replied, "'Cause I know you cheated on me and I'm not gonna pay for my ex-girlfriend's car," and hung up. Full out of the revenge, she tried to get Jack to pay for the car, even got lawsuits involved, but as she was the sole owner of the car, it was declared he had no legal responsibility to pay for her car. As she couldn't afford her road tax or insurance, she couldn't drive the car, and eventually she got so far behind the payments that her car was repossessed. To pay the debt, she had to get a minimum wage job and now takes the bus to and from work. Serves her well for being a cheater and taking advantage of Jack. Well done, Jack. You know how they say you shouldn't dump somebody over the phone? Well, not in this case. In this case, it was well deserved. Alright, on that note, let's move on to the final post. This one's from user deleted. This happened when I was in college back in 2011. I lived in a 4-story dorm that was all guys, about 40 or 60 guys per floor. Each floor had one laundry room with 3 washers and 3 dryers, plus cubbies to store your laundry bag and soap while you were washing. A few months into the semester, I noticed my laundry detergent was disappearing faster than it should be. Not a huge deal, but mildly annoying. What made it a bigger deal was that whoever was stealing my detergent would also take my clothes out of the washer and leave them on the floor so they could wash their clothes. This pushed me over the line. I would typically do a load while I went to class, not classes. So this made finding the perp tricky. Then a golden idea hit me. I went to Walmart and bought a new jug of laundry detergent, the same brand I always get, but I also bought extra strength bleach. I poured half the detergent from the new bottle into my old bottle and replaced it with extra strength bleach. That next day, I did my laundry as usual, but left the new and improved detergent in the cubby instead of my regular stuff. Then I waited. After class, sure enough, my clothes were sitting in a pile on the floor soaking wet, and the whole laundry room smelled of bleach. Just what I wanted. Fast forward to the next week. Every Monday night we had floor meetings where we basically talked about rules and crap as a floor. In walks the guy, we'll call him Bob, wearing a newly bleached hoodie and ruined jeans. Bob drops his pile of ruined clothes on the floor and starts spouting off about how someone owed him money for his ruined clothes. The whole floor bursts out in laughter. Apparently, I wasn't the only one Bob was stealing soap from. He didn't get another sentence out of his mouth before our RA told him stealing detergent was still a crime, so it was his own damn fault. Enjoy your bleached clothes, Bob. The nerve of that guy, stealing somebody's soap and then complaining when somebody sets up a trap to catch him. No. You don't get to do that, Bob, so now get new clothes or try to pass it out as you setting a new trend like it was in the 80s, I think. A lot of bleached jeans and stuff. Anyways, we've reached the end of the video. I hope you liked it. If you did, go ahead and click like. If you really liked it, go ahead and subscribe and join the community. And having said all that, I'll see you guys on the next video.